Okay, we've got some major Beatles memorabilia to talk about.
Okay, let's go.
So we're jumping straight in.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're looking at the absolute highest ticket item on the auction block right now. It's a piece of paper currently sitting at $495,000, or best offer.
$500,000. I mean, it's just staggering.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So this piece is a sketch by the photographer Iain MacMillan, and it's signed by Paul McCartney in blue ink.
Right, and it's authenticated by PSA and JSA. It measures 7 by 9 inches or 9.5 by 13 once it was encapsulated.
And the story behind this is just fascinating. In early August 1969, they urgently needed an album cover. And the working title for this record was Everest.
Right, which everyone assumes was this majestic tribute to the mountain. But it was actually just named after a cigarette brand that their audio engineer, Jeff Emmerich, happened to smoke in the studio.
Which is so mundane.
I know, but the original plan was incredibly grandiose. They were going to fly the entire band out to the Himalayas and photograph them standing against the world's highest peak.
Which, I mean, you think about the massive theatrical concepts of the Sgt. Pepper era, and a trip to the Himalayas feels like the natural progression. It's such a rock star idea.
Totally. But John Lennon was just exhausted. In his typical practical fashion, he practically declined the whole trip.
He basically just suggested they walk outside and photograph whatever was right there.
And what happened to be right there was the zebra crossing on Abbey Road.
It's just so funny to me. It's like pivoting from a lavish destination wedding in the mountains and settling for the local municipal parking lot instead.
Exactly.
But somehow, they accidentally create the most famous album cover in history. So, on August 6, 1969, Paul McCartney conceptualizes this sketch. He draws 4 figures crossing the street to show Iain MacMillan what he wants.
And then MacMillan executes the photograph 2 days later on August 8th. You know, climbing a stepladder in the middle of the street while a single police officer held up traffic.
Well, we have to clarify what this specific item is. It isn't Paul's initial doodle.
Right, no. This is MacMillan's own detailed rendering, drawn right before the album's release in September 1969.
Which Paul then signed. But I have to push back here. I'm looking at the facts, and I see a piece of paper. Why is this specific sketch worth $500,000?
Well, because you aren't just buying an autograph. From a collecting standpoint, you are buying the physical intersection of 2 men collaborating on the most reproduced image in pop music history.
So it's about the moment itself.
Yes. You have McCartney signing MacMillan's artwork for a cover that McCartney originally conceived right as they were finishing their final recorded album together. The ink proves they were in the same room.
Yeah, that does add a profound weight to it. The ink is proof of the moment. And speaking of the power of ink, let's jump from 1969 to exactly when Beatlemania was catching fire.
Oh, the 1963 LP.
Yes. We're looking at a signed Please Please Me LP with a current bid of $175,000. There are only about 75 known signed copies in existence.
Right, but what distinguishes this specific copy is its unbroken 61-year chain of custody.
Which is everything in collecting.
It is. In April 1963, a young photographer named David Magnus traveled to Roxburgh Hall at Stowe School in Buckinghamshire to shoot a concert.
And he had this brilliant foresight. He sensed they'd be famous, so he brought his LP in a black felt tip marker.
And he actually got them to sign the back cover. What's crucial for collectors is how the back cover lists the band members. It specifically notes Paul McCartney on bass guitar.
Yeah, and the seller of this item has been a collector for over 46 years. They call it the nicest signed Beatles album they've ever seen.
But the defining element here is the provenance letter from David Magnus. That document is what elevates the price tag to $175,000.
Because it's a first-person account.
Exactly. It places all 4 band members at a specific geographic location on a specific date, interacting with this exact piece of cardboard. It's a literal time capsule.
Okay, let's pivot away from these 6-figure museum pieces and look at things the everyday collector might actually be able to snag.
The more accessible artifacts.
Right. We have an Andy Warhol collector edition print for $119.99. It's a lithographic reproduction of Warhol's 1980 Beatles artwork, which was based on a Dezo Hoffman photo.
And it's limited to 300 prints, numbered 25 out of 300 in pencil.
But I want to point out the tricky language here. The listing says signed in the plate. People need to read the fine print. What does that actually mean for the buyer?
Well, with lithography, when an artist signs the plate, they etch their signature directly into the master matrix. So the signature is printed along with the artwork. It's not hand-applied by Warhol after the fact.
Okay, so it's essentially like buying a reprinted rookie sports card. You see the athlete's signature on the glossy surface, but it's just an image of the ink.
That is a perfect analogy. It's not an original hand-signed Warhol. But, the hand numbering in pencil provides a human touch. It proves a human cataloged it. It's a cool intersection between Warhol's commercial illustration roots and Beatles history.
Definitely. All right, moving from visual art to analog tape. We've got an Italian 45 RPM pressing of I Feel Fine, backed with Kansas City. The catalog number is QMSP 16372, going for around $225.
Which is such a historically significant track. I Feel Fine was released in November 1964, and it was their 9th consecutive UK #1, and it prominently features Lennon's deliberate guitar feedback right at the start.
But my question is, this record sold millions of copies globally. Why is this specific Italian pressing worth over $200?
It comes down to regional infrastructure. The Italian pressing plants were much smaller, so they produced far fewer copies. Plus, this is a rare last published cover variation with 21 singles listed on the back.
Ah, I see.
Finding one in absolute mint condition today is incredibly scarce.
Which brings us to another audio format. We have an $89 Let It Be 4-track reel-to-reel tape, 7.5 IPS on Apple Records. But tape degrades and snaps. Why wouldn't someone just buy a flawless vinyl copy?
Because of what that format represents. A speed of 7.5 IPS captures a wider frequency response, but more importantly, holding that tape means holding the raw, fractured January 1969 Get Back sessions.
Oh, right. This is before Phil Spector added his orchestrations.
Exactly. And long before Peter Jackson rehabilitated the audio. Both of these items, the Italian 45 and the reel-to-reel, they represent dying technologies that define specific collector niches.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, last item on the block. A pre-1970 yellow submarine metal lunchbox and matching thermos set for $255.
Featuring that amazing psychedelic cartoon aesthetic from the July 1968 film.
What's fascinating to me is how rare it is to find the set intact. Kids took these to school and actively destroyed them on the playground.
Oh, absolutely. And early thermoses often had fragile glass vacuum liners. If a kid dropped the lunchbox, that thermos shattered instantly.
And it was thrown in the trash. So finding the thermos and the lunchbox together today is a statistical anomaly. It totally straddles the line between a pop culture artifact and pure personal nostalgia.
Looking at everything we've explored, the sketch, the Warhol, the lunchbox, it reveals something profound about collecting. You are not paying for the raw materials. The ink and the metal are worthless on their own.
Right.
You are paying for the miracle of their survival. The true value isn't the object itself. It's the singular moment in pop culture history they managed to survive.
60 years from now, will there even be an equivalent physical artifact for a fan to hunt down?
Or will the concept of the collector just fade away?
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com.